All right, welcome scholars. This is, what is this? Trigonometry with Professor Phifer for the spring of 2026. Okay, so this will serve as our orientation. I'm just using this on file. I intend to use it, going forward. So before we go make our way through the syllabus, let's start off with our Canvas page. And when we log into Canvas, our landing page should look something similar to this. You'll see my office hours, Access Pearson, lecture notes, and Beautiful Mind Phifer, my pre-recorded lectures. So office hours, we'll talk about that when we're live. So the main thing here, though, is like the Access Pearson, right? So it's this link on the left-hand panel over here, just below syllabus, where it says Access Pearson. The Access Pearson is how we're going to be doing all of our online learning. So learning management. This course, I'm designing it to mimic the way I do my remote courses. So if we log into Pearson, or go ahead and open it up. Right, and now right now it looks like this. I'm gonna click Open Pearson. On your end, eventually you should see something that says get registered or register as a student. So then you would create an account using your Morehouse credentials, so your student email and your student name as you register. Access to Pearson as of late has been costing about $120, give or take. You would need full access. It might be a little bit discounted this semester, but once you gain full access, it should take you to something that looks similar to this. And so, for instance, this term, I went on and made as many assignments available from the beginning as possible. So pretty much all assignments are available right now with the exception of exams. So if you ever see any assignment that says practice not graded, then that's just for your practice, right? You don't have to do that. It's not going to, that assignment is not going to be factored into your grade. But you see here for like week 2, we have 4.1 angles and their measure, so on and so on, along with the corresponding due date. Everything that you're responsible for has a due date next to it. And pretty much everything in this list you're responsible for, with the exception of items that say practice not graded. Again, if it says practice not graded, you can just bypass it. Okay. But yeah, these are all of our assignments for the entire semester, with the exception of our exams. So we can anticipate 3 exams and a comprehensive final. Exam 1 covers the first half of chapter 4, so sections 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4. Exam 2 covers the second half of chapter 4, which is 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, and 4.8. And then exam 3 covers the sections that come after chapter 4, so that's 5.1, 5.2, and then there's an auxiliary 5.5 from another text, which you see here. All of our assignments are unlimited attempts. The system is set to take your highest score. There's an automatic extension built into all assignments. The late penalty is nominal, at most 10% late penalty. So if you submit something late, the highest you're going to earn is a 90. And there is a hard deadline for all assignments. This semester is basically that Friday at the end of the first full week of May. So it's Friday, May 8th, 2026 at 11:59 p.m. Okay. But so you pretty much have 16 weeks to get through all this material. Okay. Okay. So we did a brief tour of Pearson and some items there. Now, again, if you wanted to get ahead and we hadn't gone through that material, that's where my YouTube link will come in that you see at the bottom, the Beautiful Mind Phifer, all pre-recorded lectures. So for this semester, I'm building the lectures right now. I went on and created a playlist, and as I create the lectures, I'll load them into that playlist. So I'll do my best to try to get ahead of you all of where we are during the live session. But then by the end of the semester, so if you're using this recording after spring of 2026, that link should be fully populated with all 4 lectures for trigonometry. And then anything that you see me writing or any documents that I'm going to share with you, I'm going to use that third link that says lecture notes updated daily box link. I'll put notes and things of that nature there. Okay. So So then if we make our way through the syllabus for trigonometry, again, I go by Mr. Phifer. My email is my first name, last name at morehouse.edu. And then there's my office cell phone number. So I'll be honest, I'm not really that good about responding to emails. So it's just because I get so many emails, and as I lose important emails amidst, all those excessive emails. So my response to that was, that's why I created a dedicated, this is basically like a Google Voice number. You can call or text at any time. And then if I'm available, I'll answer. If not, then I'll respond as soon as I can. Let me put this on silent. So I feel like I'm gonna get some more of that. There it is. Okay. All right. But if it's and so that's a dedicated line. So when I see notifications there, if I'm available, I'll respond. If I'm not available, I'll respond as soon as I'm able to. So best way to get my attention is to use my office cell phone. I still encourage you to email me anyway, just to have it on record. And then once you get my attention, you'll be like, well, I emailed you on this date, yada, yada, yada. Okay. My office location is either my personal meeting ID in Zoom or Dansby 201. For the spring of 2026, well, here. This course meets Tuesday and Thursdays from 9:25 to 10:15. Did I stop the other one early? No, we're good, yeah. It runs from Wednesday, January 14th, 2026 through Friday, May 8th of 2026. And we meet in Dansby Hall 301. And then my office hours this semester are basically Mondays from 9 to 1 via Zoom or Dansby 201, and other times by appointment. Generally, you can just call or text me anytime, and then we can just kind of go back and forth and, arrange in that fashion. There are two types of people in this world, those that believe they can and those that believe they cannot. Both are correct, and which one are you? By Henry Ford. Okay. Prerequisite for this course is College Algebra 2 with a C or better, or by the Mathematics Placement Exam. And so in this course, we'll cover, I think there's a total of like 11 sections. Basically all of Chapter 4 on trigonometric functions, those 8 sections. And then in Chapter 5 of this text, we're doing 5.1, the law of sines, 5.2, areas of polygons using trigonometry. And then there's an auxiliary or a supplementary section, from trigonometric equations. It's just from another text. And so these are the 11 sections we'll be going throughout the semester. The grading rationale. Homework counts for 10% of the overall grade. Quizzes and classwork count for 10% of the overall grade. Exams count for 60% of the overall grade. And the final exam is 20% of our overall grade. And then the grading rationale, basically 90s are A's, 80s are B's, 70s are C's, 60s are D's. Below a D is going to be an F. Some holidays we have this semester. Labor Day, this upcoming Monday, is not Labor Day. I always forget to change that. It's supposed to be the MLK holiday. Morehouse is closed. It's Monday, January 19th, 2026. Spring break is Monday, March 9th through Friday, March 13th, 2026. So Morehouse is closed throughout there. The last day to withdraw is Monday, March 30th, 26. The last day of class is Wednesday, April 29th of 2026. The reading period are the Thursday and the Friday after the last day of class. So all classes end on that Wednesday, and then the reading period is the time to kind of finalize your assignments and start preparing for your finals. And then final exam week, this semester is going to be that first full week of May. So it's May 4th through May 8th. I want to say that this course is like a 2-credit course. So I want to say that we're allowed at most, it should be 2 unexcused absences. Let me see. With once we start hitting like 3 unexcused absences, then we could be potentially dropped from the course. We may or may not be able to get back in, and more than likely, if we don't get back in, Morehouse more than likely won't give you a refund. So, just show up, kind of keep your head down, get your questions answered, submit your assignments promptly, and you should be fine. The makeup policy. So again, I'm kind of structuring this to mimic the way I do my remote courses. So with that being said, all of our assignments are going to be done in my math lab. That includes homework, quizzes, and exams. And so with that, all of our assignments get unlimited attempts. The system is set to take your highest score. There's an automatic extension built into all assignments. The late penalty is at most 10%. And then the hard deadline for all assignments is that Friday at the end of week of finals. So that's Friday, May 8th at 11:59 p.m. That following Monday after finals, that's when I sit down and calculate final grades. So even if you submit assignments late, leading up to that hard deadline, you can still earn up to 90% even on late assignments. So here we have a statement on equity, inclusion, and belonging at Morehouse. At Morehouse College, we cultivate equitable policies and inclusive practices that support a deep sense of belonging for all members of our community. We champion equity, inclusion, and belonging, EIB, as essential to building an empathetic and respectful campus that fosters pathways to individual and collective success. EIB should be reflected in daily experiences, classroom interactions, and institutional decision making. In this course, we will strive to create a learning environment where every student feels respected, challenged, and supported in their growth. Okay. Counseling services. If you need any special accommodations, you just contact the people at the end of the paragraph, and they'll give you a letter that you can give to me discreetly, and we can make sure that you're accommodated. So if we're going to be in person, in my in-class sessions, I really don't mind technology like cell phones and laptops and things of that nature. My only request is keep the distractions to a minimum. So if you just put your devices on silent, and as long as you're not distracting me and disrupting my flow, I don't make a big deal about it. My philosophy is I feel like you're an adult at this point. You're not at home anymore, right? You're an adult, so you have to start making decisions for yourself. If you decide that, you want to pay your money and show up and not pay attention, you're an adult, right? So if you want to waste your money, I can't make that decision for you. On my end, all I can do is kind of, act as a facilitator. On my end, all I do is I just record what you guys do. When you show up, if you're late, when you submit your assignments, what scores you're getting. But there's no bias. I'm just writing down, well, you got this many right out of this many questions. This is the grade, right? It's not anything on my end. I'm just a record keeper. And I just try to encourage you all. So as an adult, if you succeed, you get all the glory. If things go sideways, you have to take accountability for your own experience. And this is what I have to go through the same thing, right? If things go sideways, as much as I want to blame others, I don't have anybody to blame but myself, right? So I kind of hold you all to a similar standard. Again, our exams, they're not proctored, So you'll notice though they are going to be different. It's not as straightforward as it sounds. Usually it's you'll take it. It's maybe 15 questions or so, and then you get a score, and then you decide if you want to take it again. But you don't see your score until the end, right? It's going to be a different exam. It's going to change every time you take it. So it's not that straightforward. So I usually give you about a week to get your exam to whatever score you'd like it to be. Again, the intent behind this on my end, I'm really just trying to expose you all to these concepts and encourage you to learn as much as possible. But, if you kind of shirk off the information and you don't really do the work, then you're going to be wasting your time and your money. Because even though we're not doing proctored exams, at some point you will be responsible for this information in a proctored environment. It might not be in this course, but again, if you go through this course and you don't actively try to learn as much as possible, you get out and you don't learn anything, you're going to be wasting your time and money. And I can tell you how many times I've had students, graduate from my courses, they leave, and then they go to their first job interview, and the first thing they give them in that job interview is a math exam. So then if you haven't learned anything, then you would have paid for it and you got your credit, but it wouldn't serve you. You're still going to be back in the same boat, right? So, and you know, it's just not worth it, and it's not necessary in this environment for the plagiarism. Um, Again, really, it's really designed where I'm just trying to expose you to the information, encourage you to learn as much as you can, but then on the back end, just make sure to get everything submitted promptly with satisfactory scores. And then another case where the plagiarism just isn't worth it, it kind of serves as like a ticking time bomb. There's a recent case where I think it was the president of Harvard. You know, they got all the way up to the rank of the president of Harvard, and then it surfaced that they plagiarized on their dissertation. So then they basically got fired. I think Harvard had like a zero tolerance for plagiarism. The funny thing about the story is the person that ousted them and took their place, it surfaced that they plagiarized as well. So I'm assuming that they were ousted as well. I've even experienced firsthand where I was applying for jobs and they would call back to the school. This is like decades after I completed everything. And they would like be asking for the student handbook and going back to the student handbook for my year and like really digging to make sure that what's on my transcript matches what they're looking for. And so, you know, long story short, it's just not worth it. And it's not necessary. Again, just learn as much as you can, do your best, but then on the back end, just try to make sure to get everything submitted with satisfactory scores. I do encourage like a group me and collaboration. So with your classmates, I think that's a phenomenal idea. Go ahead and try to seek out the tutors as soon as possible. So between your classmates, the tutors, my office hours, and the digital stuff, one of those sources you should resonate with that should help you. And then like when it comes to AI, I think it's great as like a learning aid. You know, as we kind of make our way through these questions, you know, if you get a question, try to answer it on your own with no help. You get an answer and then compare it to the answer, you know, as much as possible. Then, you know, but if you just jump straight to the answer with no context or, you know, of why that's the answer, then that won't serve you, right? So, again, I think the best use of like AI in this day and age is use it as like a learning aid. If you have a question about something or if you can't figure it out, that's where that will come into play. But you don't want to default to that because there's going to come a time where you're going to be responsible for this and you're not going to have access to AI like that when you need it, right? So, but I think it would be great as like a tutor or as a support. Okay. But yeah, during the class, I don't mind the technology. Just keep the distractions to a minimum. And we talked about the academic integrity already as well. Again, like inclement weather or like makeup or anything like that. So my intent is to go ahead and make pre-recorded lectures for each section. So, you know, based on whenever I get those released, you won't necessarily have to wait for us to meet live. You can use my pre-recorded lectures. Take notes if you're in class, because I'm gonna when I do the pre-recorded lectures, I do them in a way where I go through all the details as if we were live. So take notes if you're in class, write down your questions, and then any questions you have, you would just reach out to me and to get them resolved. And then you can like, by the end of it, you'll be able to go through all the material without having to wait for us to do it live. Okay, and we talked about AI as well. So here are some instructions for grievance resolution policy. You know, like if you can challenge stuff, you know, and there's a procedure for that. So we just kind of follow these instructions here. Okay. I think that's the gist of it. A syllabus is not a contract between instructor and student, but rather a guide to course procedures. The instructor reserves the right to amend the syllabus when conflicts, emergencies, or circumstances dictate. Students will be duly notified. And then this semester, here's a tentative schedule. So like the R stands for Thursday. So that's our session tomorrow. And then next week, so we're not affected by the King holiday. So you can see the day by day, Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. Notice that exam 1 comes during week 4 over the first half of chapter 4. Exam 2 comes during week 8 over the second half of chapter 4. Then we go to spring break. Exam 3 are for the sections that are after chapter 4. So 5.1, 5.2, and that supplemental section. Okay. And then this last page is a document saying that you've gone through the syllabus and you understand what's expected of you in the course, and that you'll abide by the rules of the course. So on that first line, you would print your name and then print your name again, sign your name, put your student email and the date, and you would get this document to me. Usually, if it's a remote course, I have a turn it in section. If we're live, you can just hand it to me live. Okay. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and end the session here. And from one beautiful mind to another, take care and peace.